Hello there, welcome to another episode of the Valkyria Chronicles on Ungainly Titan. And I showed the last episode of the Valkyria Chronicles I showed basically failure. I learned the nature of the puzzle, that you have to get the Batomys to fire its guns. So the radiators pop up and then you put hand grenades into the radiators to destroy them. But it took me 7 attempts I think in total, to actually complete the puzzle without any failures. It is difficult enough to do, and I was still learning aspects of the game. But I did figure out how to use the snipers properly, and I did figure out that, well, at the start of this battle, all you can really do is take out turrets, and therefore you prioritize it. And you just take out turrets as ruthlessly and as completely as you can. So that basically means you keep your Lancers alive, you keep the Edelweiss alive. Well, obviously you lose the whole thing if you lose the Edelweiss, and losing the Edelweiss is one of the problems. You have to keep the Edelweiss out of the arc of the guns. Now, the guns don't always fire at the Edelweiss. Sometimes Maximilian will do things like take over bases before he will consider firing at the Edelweiss. But if he has the opportunity to do so, he will, and you lose the game. There's no point in trying to defend the base that I'm currently in. That base will be crushed under the Batomys no matter what you do, because you can't stop the Batomys. Certainly not this early in the game. Nothing you can really do is stop it. You can slow it down. You can cause it to fire the main guns, which is really the heart of the whole puzzle. Once you've figured out how to get it to fire the main guns, you're on a long way to actually solving the whole thing, and the rest of it then is about keeping your units alive, or keeping the appropriate units that you need alive until such time as you need them, so that you can complete the scenario before the enemy wins. So if you make too much of a target of the Edelweiss, the tank will fire at it, although it has a preference. It's more likely to fire with it with the main front gun than it is to fire with it with the rear gun. There are certain moves that you can make with the Edelweiss in the start. For instance, in the first turn, it might have the opportunity to fire, but it doesn't seem to do so. Similarly, when it's the turn to go on and crush the first base, it will do so rather than fire at the Edelweiss, even though the rear gun would have the rotation probably to get it. You just have to, but you kind of minimize, you try and keep the Edelweiss out of what it considers the threat zone, I suppose, or at least the optimal kind of fire zone. As you can see, I have finally figured out how to use my snipers properly, and when I do figure out how to use them properly, they're very, very, very effective. And you can just totally wipe out targets. So you should bring whatever sniper you're bringing up here to kill as many of the enemies you can. Starting with the enemy sniper, and then as many of the remaining enemies you can, while you have the ammunition to do it, or at least, I don't know if I use it again. There's other things that you might have to consider, such as taking out turrets and damaging turrets and stuff like that. So we've taken out one turret completely, and that makes it easier. Because if there's 2 turrets intact, even if they're both damaged, it's kind of harder to take them out, particularly with Lancers, because they will both fire. If you aggro one turret, the other turret will provide supporting fire anyway, so you finish up under fire from both turrets. Maximilian will almost always use this attack order. He'll probably use it in the first couple of rounds at any rate. Seems to boost the morale, and he will send the troopers that are not on the Batomys, the forces that are basically not the Batomys, to try and take the second base. If he takes the second base, he will attempt to bring reinforcements onto that base unless you reoccupy it in your turn before the reinforcements can appear. You really don't want reinforcements appearing, at least not that early in the game. So the Batomys will advance at the start and won't fire before it advances, so don't know if firing takes a separate command point or not. So it advances into a position generally where it won't fire at the Edelweiss, which is the kind of situation you want to come about, because you don't want the Edelweiss taking fire if you can possibly avoid it. It can survive a hit from the rear turret, but it won't have a lot of health left, and you will need the immediate attention of an engineer. So you will try and keep an engineer alive at all times, and if you do lose an engineer, it should be a priority to bring one back on as a reinforcement. They'll have the movement. I probably wouldn't bring it on the second base, because you can't always guarantee that you're going to hold that. Now, I've used Alicia. I've used a scout to defend the base rather than a shock trooper, because I think at the end game, scouts and engineers are more used to you than shock troopers because of their improved mobility. The units that are remaining are really deadly that are right at the end of the game, and you want high mobility to get people onto the Batomys without being shot at from an approach that takes them away from the enemy units, and basically just otherwise you won't be able to bring the Batomys down to the point where you can damage it with the Edelweiss. Certain things happen over the course of the combat that are just scripted, and there's nothing much you can do about it. They're going to trigger on a timetable. They trigger after certain events, I think. As soon as you take out the first cooling fin or cooling unit. So we're bringing the Edelweiss up here. We want to take out this turret. It's a balance of command points. You could do a lot more with the Edelweiss, but then you won't have the command points to do other stuff, so you need to eliminate the support troopers and make use of your lancers and your support troops as much as possible. Otherwise, you just won't have the command points to do it. I've never, at least not in the earlier part of the battles, found much use for stockpiling command points. You kind of needed to use all of them all at once as you had them. So Yoko has managed to take out the second turret on the side of the Batomys, and she has a reasonable amount of health left, but she doesn't have a lot. So we're going to probably medically treat her before she has to do more work. We bring Marina out to take out the Lancer. So my first priority is the Lancer, because from now on the Edelweiss will have its back turned to the ridge, and I don't want this bloke behind me putting rounds into the Radiator, or he will take out the Edelweiss. And that would be the end of it, the end of the scenario, and I will lose, so I'd have to start again and try again and keep going. Now I want to move Marina into a position where I can shoot that shock trooper that's scout that's assaulting the base. Mostly so I don't have to use Alicia to do it, and I can preserve Alicia's hit points without having to send somebody over to heal her or use her action to heal herself. So I'm going to activate Marina again. She doesn't quite have line of sight on the scout. I'm just checking down there, but no, she doesn't have the line of sight on the scout. He is around behind that grey wall, brown wall rather, and there he is. And he's a one shot no matter where I hit him, but I will zoom in to the maximum anyway to minimise the chances of missing and shoot him in the centre of mass, and he's gone. This means the shock trooper is going to have to be dispatched now to take the base, and he will be dispatched because the enemy will make a priority of that, and the shock trooper will focus his attention. That'll cost a couple of command points. Marina's now out of the way as safe as I can make her, so I don't have to worry about her at the moment. And then I was kind of wondering what to do next. What I really need to be doing now is taking out more turrets. The other option would be to heal Alicia, which might not have been a bad idea, because if I healed Alicia, it would probably secure the base. It would almost guarantee that I could hold the base. That's because Maximilian will order the Batomys into and crush and overrun the base in front of him, because it gives him the opportunity to gloat, and he's not going to pass that one up. I could bring on reinforcements? No, I don't think I've lost anybody. So there's no point in bringing on reinforcements unless I take somebody off. Now bring Largo around here. Now he has a shot of the turret. And I fire, but I miss. It's not a great shot because it's a sidewards blow. It can have trouble penetrating, and even if I get a clean shot. The problem is if I bring him closer, he'll be in view of the near side turret. And then the near side turret will fire on him like it is here, and when it fires on him, it will also drag in its buddy, who will also fire on him as a supporting fire. So Largo has lost more than half his health points, so I can't do that again without healing up Largo. Which I'm about to do right now because I'm going to activate Carl. And Carl is going to run over, he's going to resupply Largo by coming close to him. Just the proximity will cause the resupply. There's the resupply triggered. So Largo now has three rounds for his lance, and then I'll switch over to the Ragnade and we will heal Carl. So, or Largo rather. We'll heal Largo and Largo's back more or less to full health, and then we will leave Carl where he is. Another option would have been, instead of activating Largo there, would have been to, or activating Largo at this point would have been to take, with that turret now almost completely removed, just take 3 shots. But I could have activated the Edelweiss. It would have been more of a cautious play. I could have activated the Edelweiss and driven towards the forward quarter of the Batomys, so that when the Batomys drove past, I wouldn't be in a good position to be shot at by the gun, the big gun at the back. So Maximilian has ordered in an all-out attack once more, and now he's driven the Batomys onto the camp, where he's going to just crush the flag underneath and completely destroy the base as a base. And there it is. That's it. It's over. It's gone. So now he's going to gloat and point out that he doesn't need to capture cabs, doesn't need reinforcements. The Batomys will do it all because it's super duper. And Welkin is rather a bit demoralized by the whole thing, but Captain Varrot, yes, Captain Varrot is saying about the fact that they can slow the Batomys down by dropping walls in front of it. So the vertical walls can be used to slow the Batomys down, but more importantly, they will make the Batomys fire the gun, because what the Batomys won't do is try and drive through those walls. I don't think it's probably able to drive through those walls, but it can fire its main frontal armament, and that causes the walls to disintegrate or disappear. But once it does, that will trigger the cooling system, and the cooling system triggers the Batomys is vulnerable, because you can then destroy those coolers by sending a trooper onto the tank, up the ladders and into the tank, and then toss a hand grenade into the cooling system, and that will destroy each cooling unit. There's 3 of them, so you need to destroy all 3 cooling units. But as you destroy cooling units, it will trigger scripted events in game, or at least if you destroy the first cooling unit. I'm not sure whether the first cooling unit destroyed will trigger the fact that you get a message from the rest of the militia that their position is untenable and they're forced to withdraw under the pressure from a Valkyria. Sylvania has Valkyria arms, and she's making the most use of them, and she's basically kicking ass and taking names, except she's not interested in names, she's not really bothered. So as far as I can tell, once you take out the first cooling tower, you will get the message basically that the position has collapsed east of the temple, and then you have like 2 turns before she arrives. Now this bloke, that's the thing I noticed. If there is a base in play and the enemy troopers are attempting to take it, they will always run up to the flag before they attack, which actually makes it easier because they're out in the open and they're more vulnerable, and it's much easier to kill them for the defensive units. And it's now back around to my turn, so I have to move now, and the next thing I have to move is the Edelweiss. So the Edelweiss here was clearly in the line of sight of the rear gun, but taking the base and taking the 2 bases was more of a priority, so the gun didn't fire. I think if I'd eliminated all troopers at this point, that gun probably would have fired. So it's a bit of a juggling act, it's exactly how you do it. But I needed to be behind the tank, because I want to get that shot in, and then I want to get around the side here, because I can't afford to stay at the back anymore. I need to get into the side of the tank, because I definitely can't afford to pull, to risk staying in that line of sight of that rear gun too often. And I need to also make some progress in taking out these side turrets. We've managed to do a fair bit of damage to that turret there. However, I need to get the Edelweiss further forward. But we also need to get rid of that rear turret. So we're going to activate Ramsey. And Ramsey's going to resupply Yoko, and she's also going to heal Yoko. Again, as soon as she goes into heal mode, she's not taking any more fire, which is good because she doesn't have a lot of hit points left. Now, it's useful that Ramsey stays alive, but it's not utterly essential because she's becoming less and less relevant up at that location than she would have been earlier if say the Edelweiss had gotten damaged or something along those lines. So Yoko can fire the rearmost Batomys turret, and she takes that out. So now we've cleared two sides of the tank. So there's really only one more side left. The frontal turret is useful to get rid of it, but it's not completely essential. And we also need to move the Edelweiss as far forward as I can get it, squeeze in there as close as I can, just to, again, minimize the chances of the rear gun getting a line of sight or coming to bear on me. Now it looks like here I don't have any real shot at either of those turrets. I'm just too close, or the angle is just too steep or something like that. It's not turning red when I target them. So what I'm going to do is there's a wall down already. That wall is down by default, but I'm going to knock another wall down. That means the Batomys will have to fire 3 times before it can take the second base. Twice more before it can take the second base. Which means that it would allow me to take out 2 of the cooling units. Now I made a big mistake here. I should have pushed Walter forward straight away. But by the time I did, he was already taking fire. He was wounded. When I pushed him, I lost him. Alternatively, I could have just stopped straight away and just exited the phase because he wasn't going to make progress there, and I should have realized it. So the Batomys blows up the wall, and then it makes its advance, and all the cooling towers pop up. And this is your first time. Well, first time this happens to you, you get your first clue. Welkin is going on about how powerful the main cannon is, but Isara spots straight away the technical issue with the cooling towers. Now, like I said, I think I might have mentioned this before, but she seems to be able to see a lot out of the driver's position of a tank, much more than you would expect. Even in modern tanks, I don't think drivers get to see a whole lot. Vision is pretty restricted on tanks. I was just looking actually at a video, even on M1 Abrams, just a simulator video, showing what they can see, and vision is still pretty restricted once you're kind of buttoned up. So the only way to take out those cooling towers is to set somebody up with a hand grenade. Toss a hand grenade into the cooling tower. This will immediately cause the cooling system to reset and shut down and become armoured up again. So you have to do is you have to get the gun to fire each time you want to take out a cooling tower, and you can only take out a cooling tower one at a time, because as soon as it does, it armours up, goes down, and you have to wait for the next time the gun to fire to take out the next one. And once you have all 3 cooling towers taken out, the tank then becomes actually vulnerable, for some reason or other, to actual demolition by conventional anti-tank fire. How it's explained, or how this comes about, is not explained very well in the text. It's probably best not speculated too much. There's a lot of this, a lot of stuff going on here. It's kind of essentially magic tech. But we will take advantage of the fact that the coolers are out, and we have a scout ready, who will just climb up and toss a hand grenade into the appropriate cooler. It's kind of important that you do it to the right cooler as well as the one you're actually on. You can, in theory, and in practice sometimes, but it's just very rarely that it works, stand at the side and toss a grenade into the one on the rear. But if it doesn't work, it's a waste of a grenade, because your character will then have to be resupplied or wait for a complete new turn to get a fresh set of grenades, and it can get very messy very quickly. So you destroy the first cooler, the squads 1 and 2 have pulled out. So within 2 turns, or 2 or 3 turns, I think, I don't know exactly how many, Sylvania will turn up with more troops, more reinforcements. So at that point, you have to have had at least the second cooler taken out. Now, I don't know if that actually triggers Sylvania's arrival or not, but she does arrive pretty quickly. Anybody in the trench where Largo is, or Carl is, will be killed if she arrives, or if they're there when she arrives. So you need to get those people out of there as well. So that's all part of your considerations for the next phase. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and a share. If you have not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.